Welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast, the show where we dive into the world of travel, exploring everything from expert tips and insider secrets to unforgettable destinations and the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned globetrotter or planning your very first adventure, we've got you covered with the advice and inspiration you need to make your travels truly unforgettable. So sit back, relax, and let's take your travel planning to the next level. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Travel Bug Girls podcast. I'm Kimmy here with Heather today, and today we are going to talk about baby moons. So basically, a baby moon is when you are going to have a baby and you and your husband or spouse go on a little adventure together to kind of just have some y'all time, focused y'all time before this new life adventure starts. So it's kind of like a fun little time together to just sort of enjoy the time that, you know, you two have together before you add another little human to your life. So I feel like baby moons are kind of a newer thing. Yeah. Like these were not a thing when I had my kids. I don't think.
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely
but
not.
I really love it. I think it's a
I think it's grown in popularity in the last 10 years or so. And probably media has helped that. Movies and TV have probably shown a couple and kind of like bachelorette trips. A newer trend.
More of these like little fun getaway type things.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about like some destinations, some activities you could do. Also some like practical things, because traveling while pregnant does have some of its own kind of things that you need to consider. So we're going to just kind of go through all of that today and just sort of run through. And baby moons is something that we plan here at the Travel Bug Girls. We can.
Yes. We have fun planning baby moons, don't we?
They are super, super fun.
They're fun to plan.
So. And then like you get to know your client, and later on when the baby's born, you get to see them pictures, and it's very sweet. It is very sweet. So I love. So as we're going through, if you our listeners have any questions that come to your mind, or if you have any ideas for like your ideal baby moon, post those in our comments, find us on social media, and we'd love to connect with you and talk about answer some of your questions, or maybe add some of your destinations to our list. So let's get started. So let's start out like with the perfect baby moon escape. What would we say is the perfect baby?
Well, first, I think it really depends on how far along you are in your pregnancy and how much time you have off. The big things, I think, how much time you have off, how far along are you in your pregnancy, and what's your budget? These are the three, I think, big things to consider first. It really is going to help you narrow down from the entire planet. Where are we going? What are we doing? Yeah, so that really helps. You know, I think what we see a lot of in social media is probably the tropical beach vacations, and that can certainly be fun. But, you know, you're not going to want to fly too far. And even cruise lines won't let you, join after a certain point in your pregnancy for liability's sake. So you're going to really want to take into account, like planning ahead for this. If you're doing it kind of like spur of the moment, oh my gosh, the baby's almost here, we should get away for a weekend, which I think is probably more normal than not, then maybe you want to stick closer to home and do something more domestic that you can get to quickly. You're not too far away. If something does happen, the baby's coming early, or you have a concern, then you can quickly get to where you need to for medical attention. So we would probably say maybe like a getaway to the mountains, or a nearby city that you've been wanting to explore and you just need an excuse. That could be a good reason to get away for the weekend and enjoy something a little special. What kinds of places do you think? I mean, the problem is technically a baby moon could be anywhere. You could go anywhere. You really could go anywhere. But
I think I think a key consideration is you really want it to be relaxing. So that is going to be dependent
Right.
on what is relaxing to the couple, because what
Mhm.
is relaxing to one couple is not going to be the same. You know, not
Sure.
everybody loves the beach. That is not going to be a relaxing vacation for everybody.
Mhm.
Some people it is, but you know, some people it would be a quiet cabin in the mountains. Some people it's going to be like you said, just going somewhere local and maybe enjoying some new things that you've always
Yeah.
wanted to do locally, but you haven't ever
Yeah.
taken the time to do it. So it's really like I think the key of Baby Moon, or the focus, is like relaxing time together, you
Mhm.
know? So
Time
what,
together.
yes.
Yes. So sometimes these skew really romantic. So that's nice, if you're like, this is our last kind of I think that's that whole honeymoon, baby moon, like the idea of like it's the two of us going away and focusing on each other and our feelings and our needs, as a couple, before the baby comes. Both of us have kids. Both of us have been through that season of life. And it is a lot. It's a lot when your baby first comes, and it can be hard on your
Especially the
marriage.
first one.
Yes, it's a huge transition. So I think it makes sense for people to be like, let's just take a little getaway. And especially if it's been a while since you had your honeymoon, but if you've like waited years to get, or if you were the kind of couple that never really had a big honeymoon, this is a nice excuse to do that. So those are the two I think we see most often. So it does tend to skew kind of romantic. So like Kimmy said, that depends entirely on the couple. Every couple is different with that. Like, what is romantic to you? Cassie and her husband are away this weekend, and not on a baby moon. Let's not start that rumor, but they are away for the weekend, just the two of them at Universal Studios, having the time of their lives without their kids.
That's so fun.
And that is really fun. But my
Mhm.
husband would not want to do that, probably, unless we had a group of friends going. He would be like, I'm not, don't sign me up for that. Let's do something different. He would rather go to the mountains, go to the lake, go kayaking, something like that. So it just depends on what's special to you as a couple. So it's really a moment for you to sit down together and say, what would we love to do? I think the other thing that maybe people don't consider as much, and I think could be really special, is what is something we feel like we won't be able to do for the next 3 to 5 years because we have little ones. What is something very grown up that we wouldn't necessarily want to drag small children through? That could be another way to look at
That's a
that.
great idea. Yeah.
And especially if you're planning ahead, if you're like, in your first trimester going, ooh, I want to do this before the baby comes, then you're giving yourself a little time to plan. Then you could really work in something a little more active than what you would want to do in your last trimester, where, maybe you need to take it easy. So is there something you've always wanted to go and see and do? And that doesn't have to be super active. It could also be like, we want to go to a Michelin star restaurant. You probably don't want to
Or
take
like
a
a
2-year-old.
Broadway show or
Yeah,
something.
or
Yeah.
something like that. We want to traipse all over New York City at Christmas time, and our baby's coming in February or March. Amazing. That's not something you couldn't do with a baby, but wouldn't it be more comfortable maybe to do it as a couple than with a baby or a top in tow? So these are the kinds of things that definitely could be considered really good material for a baby moon in particular.
So on that, let's continue on that. Like, what are you actually going to do on a baby moon? And I touched on relaxing. I feel like that is usually an important part of it. Some of that also maybe depends on where you are in your pregnancy, as far as like how much relaxation. Like you said, if you're toward the beginning, you're like a person that likes to hike and stuff like that might be your relaxation is going on a hike or whatever. I know the one that I planned, they wanted some built-in like rest time So like I planned activities in the morning and the evening, and then kind of let the middle of the day open where if they felt, like if she felt good and wanted to do some more, they could add in some of their own, but they weren't locked into anything, so that there was space for rest. Because I think you don't want to, especially toward the end of your pregnancy, like the middle and the end, there's so much going on. You're trying to get the nursery ready. You're having all these showers and all this stuff, and it's a lot.
And your body's tired too. It's doing a lot. Yeah.
And so it's good to just build in that relaxation time. And maybe you could do some things like spa things or massages, yoga type things incorporated into your trip. Of course, taking your pregnancy into consideration, because some of those things do have to be modified, during pregnancy, massage and that kind of stuff sometimes. But kind of building in a few little things like that, like moments where you can just, take a break from all the chaos.
I do tend to feel like, in general, not knowing anything about a particular couple, I feel like I would probably recommend a city vacation for those reasons if you're later in the pregnancy. If it's like the month before the baby's coming and this is our last hurrah kind of a thing, then I think going somewhere where you have a nice, comfortable hotel in the middle of a city where you're doing activities, like you said, in the morning, afternoon, but you can easily get back to the hotel to take a nap. I think that's really nice. If you're in a bigger city, then you're more likely to have access to prenatal yoga, prenatal massage, right? Some experts who can really pamper a mom who is far enough along that they're protecting her in the process. And, my favorite thing is a pedicure, but they say not to do pedicures when you're pregnant because the massage can trigger labor. And that was like devastating to me as a pregnant woman, because it's like my feet need extra attention right now, and you're telling me I can't have one. That's very unfair. And so, there's things like that where if you're in a bigger city, then you might have more access to those things. Now, could those things exist in a smaller, rural, beautiful destination? Absolutely. But you're more likely to have access in a bigger city. So I feel like that's kind of lends itself. And also you could do some of those more adult only things, like a fancy restaurant, like go shopping. This is something I would do on a mom's day out when I had little kids. If I had a day to myself, which was rare and wonderful, then I would go where everything is breakable. You don't realize how much you start to cut certain things out until it's gone. And you're like, I can never go in that antique store because they are known for their dishes. And I'm not taking these 3 toddlers into that building.
Yeah.
So,
Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby. I did not go to Hobby Lobby with my kids for like years because everything was glass and breakable, and I was like, somebody's gonna die.
Upper elementary. Yes, exactly. So those are the kinds of things that, as a first-time mom, maybe you don't realize you're about to cut out of your life. You think you're cutting out big adventure. You don't realize some of the smaller things that will be less anyway, less often in your life, maybe. Yeah. And so having some time together to do something, and obviously that relates entirely to the couple and what they're interested in. So my husband and I, even when we were younger and dating, we would go to antique stores together. That was just something we were interested in. I don't even know why. Like, I have no idea why that appealed to us when we were young. But, that was something that we could have happily done on a Babymoon and had the best time exploring. And then, once the baby comes, you're probably not going to go do that for a while as often. So these are kinds of things. Now, plenty of people are like, just take me to the beach, right? Kim, you tend to be more of a beach girl.
Yeah.
Beach is happy, beach is relaxing by itself. I am not. That is stressful to me. We are opposites that way. Now, can I have fun at the beach? Absolutely. I have learned, especially in in Bimini in the Bahamas, I have a happy place, where I can sit in a chair. It's comfortable. The weather's always nice when I'm there. They bring me drinks. The water is clear. The bathroom is right there. Like, I'm in a happy place. But in general, when you say beach to me, that is not relaxing. It's stressful to me. And so I would not necessarily want that unless I was planning something that is really conducive to what I need to feel safe and happy. The other consideration, though, when it comes to tropical vacations for a baby moon is keep in mind with the rise of Zika a few years ago, we learned that we need to be careful about going where there are mosquitoes. So you might want to keep that in mind when you're planning where you're traveling, is what kinds of, I hate to say
risks.
Diseases, but what risks there are in the area you're traveling in as a pregnant mother. So that's just something that we would advise if you came to us and were like, hey, we want to go to Costa Rica for our baby moon. We would first say, let's do some research. Let's talk about that. What precautions do you need in order to say yes to that? So something to consider.
Yeah. I definitely, talking about beach trip, that would probably be my ideal baby moon. Because if you are a beach lover, and that experience completely changes after you have kids, because once you have kids, you are no longer relaxing at the beach. You are constantly on like alert to watching the water and making sure you know where everybody is. And like for 18 years, probably, like, beach trips for me were super stressful. Even though I love the beach, but taking my kids, I was always on alert. So it was not relaxing. So if you are a beach person, I would say
it's a good example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's one of those things that will kind of change.
It's different. It's just that it's different. Yeah. It's different. It's also sweet and special in its own way to watch them experience something you love like that. But it is different. And remembering that a lot of the point of your baby moon is that time together. So if like a romantic beach vacation is something that you two treasure, it will be different once the kids come along. And it may be a little while till it's super romantic again, as a family anyway. If you can sneak away, just the two of you, in a couple of years, that's nice too. And we're obviously happy to help with those things as well.
I think that's something that's fun for us about baby moons is because they are so like tailored to the couple. Like, this is not a trip that we can just like, okay, here's our baby moon plan, here's our baby moon itinerary that we use for everybody. Like that's not an option because it's very like tailored to the couple, and that's what makes it really fun to plan.
I guess that's a good point though, Kimmy, is that it is an option, and it's just not how we work as the Travel Bug Girls. I think it is an option. I think people could just be like, here's a baby moon, here are the 2 best baby moons, right? And it's just, that's not how we think of travel. It's very specialized, very customized, and what works for you, what you and your husband think is sweet and romantic and relaxing, is not necessarily what your best friend's marriage even needs. So I think you're right. That's what we love about it, is making it special and coming up with those unique things that are just about that couple. I think I remember the couple you worked with last year, they are big foodies. And so you were able to work in some really unique, special things for them that maybe would not have been meaningful for the next couple that came along, but it was just right for them. And that is what makes travel so fun for us, is really finding those unique items that make it really custom for each family.
So let's kind of move into some of the practical things that you need to consider if you're planning, if you want to go on a baby moon. There's definitely, like we said, some pregnancy related considerations. So let's just talk, like, what's the practical stuff? What do we need to consider off the top here?
So definitely the stage in your pregnancy you're at needs to be top foremost. your location. You need to really think about, are there any risks I need to talk over with my doctor? Other than that, I think the next thing you really want to consider is really planning for your own comfort level. You know, are you struggling with morning sickness still when you're traveling? Are you fatigue? Is fatigue an issue? I've had both of those issues during my 3 pregnancies. So, and I did travel. My third one, I went to Paris for the very first time. I went to France for the first time when I was pregnant with her. And I was feeling better. I was kind of past that first trimester where I was really, really sick. And I was feeling better. But then the process of travel, it's the only time I've ever thrown up on a plane. That's the only time I've ever thrown up on a subway. Which is an experience. Very public vomiting is not something I'm into. And I love a good street market, but I was pregnant and we walked into the street market and I'm looking at beautiful baby clothes that are French and so precious. And I can smell, though, the cheese vendor down the way. And my body just, I was like, oh, and we're done shopping and we're done. I need to leave before we ruin this table of baby clothes. So, you know, and then like I needed to stop and use the restroom more often than average. And that was problematic in Europe where bathrooms are not as readily available. It could be the same though in other places like New York City, maybe, right? Where maybe there's not a public bathroom everywhere you go. And so these are things that you need to kind of plan for. I had enough energy. I could walk all day, which was nice. Because in another pregnancy, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have been so tired that it would have really ruined the trip. So these are things you need to think about yourself, you know, your abilities, what makes you feel comfortable and happy is really going to affect how much you enjoy that trip. And you're going to want to take it into account when you're planning what you're going to do. So something that really is more about rest, relaxation is definitely going to be better for you because you're already going to pre-build in that time to rest, you know, the places that you need to be comfortable, all of those things. So making sure also that you're packing what you need to feel confident, like medications or prenatal vitamins, but also like comfortable clothing, comfortable shoes, right? An extra
Snacks.
pillow. Were you like me that had to prop your legs a certain way to sleep, right? Do you need to request that at the hotel? Or if you're going to stay in a cabin, maybe take one with you. Those kinds of, snacks to have always at all times. And so the proper bag to carry so that you have all the things you need, you know, that's what we would really recommend, making sure you're planning ahead. So, and then also make sure you're taking your medical information in a way that's easily accessible and shareable, just in case. Make sure you have the doctor's number and your insurance information and all of these things so that if worst case scenario, something happens, you can easily access and share all of that information. Your husband can access it in a panic. You know, you want to make sure that he has it on his phone, that he has your insurance card, that you has your doctor's number and all of that. So
you might even want to get like basic copies of your files from your OBGYN
especially if you're like a month away or you're in a high risk pregnancy, you need to just be mindful that you want to be prepared.
Let's
join
us
next week for part 2
insurance.
of our podcast on international travel accommodations.
Probably a key thing to consider when you're pregnant and traveling.
Agreed. Yes, I highly recommend at this point, after all the things we've seen, we recommend travel insurance anyway. All the time now. There's almost not a case where I wouldn't recommend it anymore. And that's a big shift for me from before being a travel agent to now. I've seen those so many cases where it paid out and it just saved the day. It really did. So in this case, travel insurance is interesting because a lot of people don't realize that there's two sides to travel insurance. One is it covers your travel expenses. So depending on the level of insurance and the policy you have, it can cover, you know, things like lost luggage. I had to stay in a hotel because my flight was delayed and we had to stay an extra night. Maybe it even covers your meals because you had to be delayed. It can cover all those things. It can cover all the way up to an emergency happened and we had to cancel our trip, which you can imagine being pregnant could happen, that you needed to not travel after all. And so maybe you need to delay that trip. Maybe it needs to happen as the baby's first year birthday instead of right before the baby comes. So in that case, you would want cancel for any reason insurance, or even maybe a policy that covers, a medical emergency, meaning you don't travel. So that's a higher level of insurance, but it's certainly something that could be very useful in this situation, maybe very beneficial. But travel insurance also is going to cover medical situations while you're traveling. So even the lowest travel insurances we work with cover some level of medical emergency. And the stronger policies cover every kind of medical emergency you can imagine, including emergency transportation, all the things that could happen. So they're going to be an extra level of protection if something goes very wrong. If you are in another city or another country and you go into labor early, are you going to feel confident that you have everything you need? If you need to be life flighted off of an island to the nearest US city for care, are you going to be covered? Is that very expensive expense going to be covered? And so that's the kind of thing that a good travel insurance policy is going to cover just as a normal coverage item.
Well, I think that we've covered about everything about Babymoons, or at least a good introduction. So I think that's a really fun, special way to kind of transition with your partner into a new chapter of your life, and just kind of have that special moment together to really enjoy the time before life gets a little more chaotic. So I love that Babymoons are a trend. I kind of wish that they were a thing when I was having my babies. But it is a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun for us to plan. I really love tailoring those trips to the needs of each couple. So that's a lot of fun.
It's really fun to celebrate our club that way.
It really is. It really is. So if anybody that's listening is interested in learning more about a baby moon, they can go to our website. It's travelbuggirls.com, and there's a little form you can just kind of fill out and, tell us what you're interested in, and we can get more information. We have a little bit more in-depth probably information when we're doing a baby moon, just because of, like we've talked about, all the kind of special needs that you have during pregnancy. So yeah,
we would love to customize the baby moon for you. We really would. Your family.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Heather. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Always fun.
Congratulations to all of our new mamas out there that are listening to this, and good luck. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Travel Bug Girls podcast. Be sure to subscribe to get our new episodes every week. We'd love to connect with you on social media. Share your answer to this week's podcast question with us at facebook.com/travelbuggirls. You can find us on your favorite social media by using @travelbuggirls. Want to join our VIP group? You'll find us on Facebook groups under TBG Travelbugs. Learn more about the Travel Bug Girls and what we do on our website at travelbuggirls.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and safe travels.